Just welcome to all of our participants and attendees joining us today. We'll just wait a couple of minutes before we kick off. Okie dokie, Annabelle, you can take it away.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on financial guidance during COVID-19. First up, I just want to mention a few things. So today's webinar hasn't been captioned, but our lovely Helen is recording this for us. So it will be available to everybody and it will be captioned. So if that's something you're looking for, we will be providing that. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we all meet today as panelists and attendees. I'd like to acknowledge that on behalf of the LTSU and acknowledge traditional elders past and present and emerging, and that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So hi everybody, I'm Annabelle and I'm the 2020 president of the La Trobe Student Union, and today's webinar has come about in response to the current climate and the difficulties it poses financially to students. We recognise that there have been so many job losses and that leads to a lot of uncertainty around rent payments and daily cost of living among everything else. There've also been a lot of uncertainty around what support students are eligible for and the benefits that are available to you. So today we have some panelists who are going to speak today from both the LTSU and International Student Services, and each of them are going to have a short presentation, and then at the end we're going to have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, there is a Q&A box, and leave them in there and we will be answering those questions. And we're also going to write them all down so we have a record of them. First up, sorry, I've lost my script here. So if you have any questions as well and you're struggling, we'd really encourage you to arrange an appointment with our LTSU financial counsellor, Robyn, who's here. She waved in the purple, and she's going to help you out. And Helen's going to post the link to the website as well, which has information on how to book appointments, and in the chat box too. So first up today, we've got Robyn Angus, our amazing financial counsellor at the La Trobe Student Union. So take it away, Robyn.
Thanks, Annabelle. I'll outline the assistance with domestic students may be eligible for. What help is there for students who are already recipients of youth allowance or Austudy? Firstly, the coronavirus supplement is a $550 per fortnight payment for those affected financially by the lockdown and job losses. This is automatically added to your payments. Secondly, the economic support payment. This is 2 payments of $750 in April and again in July, paid automatically for those who do not receive the coronavirus supplement. What help is there for students who are not already on Centrelink benefits? If you have not received Centrelink payments in the past, but now find your financial situation has changed due to COVID-19, you can apply for Youth Allowance or Austudy online. What if you have a debt with Centrelink? You can continue to pay off your debt, but if you need to reduce it, pause or stop your repayments, you can arrange this by calling the Centrelink debt line. Can students receive JobKeeper payments from their employer? Your employer will pay $1,500 a fortnight before tax. This applies to full-time, part-time and casual employees who have worked for the current employer for at least 12 months and are Australian citizens or permanent residents. This includes if your employer then stood you down or you stopped working with them and they re-engaged you. If you're getting an income support payment like job seeker payment and your employer starts paying you job keeper payment, you must report that income to Centrelink. There is also help available from the university. The COVID-19 bursary is a once-off $3,000 payment for either crisis or technology needs, available for all students enrolled at La Trobe University and affected by COVID-19. So far, 1,200 bursaries have been awarded and 4,000 applications are being processed. There is also some emergency relief available by emailing Ask La Trobe. If you have specific financial concerns, please visit latrobestudentunion.edu.au and make an appointment to Zoom or phone me. Remember, you're not alone. The university and LTSU are here to help. You can call us on 9479 2314. If you're an international student, Helen Zhang from International Student Support Services will outline the assistance available, including the new Victorian Government Student Emergency Relief Fund. Thank you very much.
Was muted. Thank you so much, Robyn, for that. Our next panelist is Anna Jenkins, who's a Senior Coordinator with International Student Services, and Rebecca Hodge, who is the Manager at International Student Services. Thank you, Anna and Rebecca.
Over to you, Beck.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much, Annabelle, and thanks for inviting us here today. So I'm Beck Hodge, and I'm the Acting Manager at International Student Services at La Trobe. And I am here today to let international students in particular know about some supports that are available to them. But a lot of the supports that I will mention are available to any student as well. So I might highlight that as I go through. So thank you. And we'll just go to the next one. Thanks, Helen. So this is just a little snapshot of our friendly team in International Student Services. So you can see Anna and I there in the top left corner. So we're here today. And so we have team members, that are based at Bundoora and our regional campuses. Obviously, we're all working from home and online at the moment, but we're still definitely here to support you. We'll go to the next slide. So this is how you can contact us while we are working remotely and while you're studying online. So we are still available through the usual phone number, as well as you can ask us a question through the Ask a Question, which is the same way that you'll ask a question to Ask La Trobe as well. We also have a Facebook page, International Student Services Facebook page. We're doing weekly student lounge webinars as well, similar to this, and so you'll be able to join us for different topics each week as well. And probably most importantly, if you're really wanting to have a face-to-face chat, we can do that over a Zoom meeting with one of our lovely coordinators as well, and that can be about any range of topics. So for any international student, all you would need to do is call up or send us an email and we can arrange that for you. Thanks, Helen. So the La Trobe University FAQs for COVID-19 are being continually updated, and so that's a really good place to start if you're having an inquiry, whether it's about your studies, financial support, or anything related to your studies and how you might have been impacted by COVID-19. So please do regularly check that FAQ page. Thanks, Helen. Okay, so I hope that you're all aware that La Trobe has created a financial assistance package, and this is open for all La Trobe students. Originally, the applications were open until the 26th of April, but it has been extended now until the 26th of May, so applications are still open. There are two types of bursaries, a technology bursary and a crisis bursary. You can apply for one or the other, but you can only be awarded one out of those two. So one is a laptop and a payment for internet access, and the other is a cash payment of $3,000. So that is the web page there. So if you do go to that website, there'll be a further explanation about the bursaries and also how to apply. A few students may have applied and have been awarded that already, so I'm grateful for that. If you have applied and you're still waiting for an outcome from your application, do know that all applications are still open and in the running for assistance as more money is contributed to that bursary pool. And if you have applied but your circumstances have become maybe worse or they've changed significantly, it's okay to do a second application so that you can update on what is your situation now, especially if it's been a little while since you did first apply. Thanks, Helen. Okay, so this, so the Department of Education, Skills and Employment has established a contact centre for international students. So you can call or email them for any kind of support as an international student who is impacted by COVID-19. And they also have a register for job vacancies by state. So I think that's a really important part to highlight, because I understand, unfortunately, a lot of employment has been impacted by COVID-19, and so a lot of students may be looking for different jobs. So it would be a good idea to have a look at their registry of job vacancies for Victoria. Thanks, Helen. Okay, so last week the Victorian government fortunately announced a $45 million package for emergency relief for international students in Victoria, and that will consist of payments of up to $1,100 for a student who is in a vulnerable position and who has lost their employment and therefore their income and is facing financial hardship. At the moment, you can register your interest for this emergency relief by going to the Study Melbourne website that's there on the screen. And when the application process is finalised, as in when it's decided how students will apply, Study Melbourne will email you those details if you have registered with them on their webpage. And as soon as we also have that information, we will make it known to all international students at La Trobe so that they know how do you apply, what is the eligibility, to help maximise the assistance for any La Trobe students who are in financial need. You can also access support from Study Melbourne, whether it's financial or advice. They give free advice to international students who are studying in Victoria about rental matters, employment matters. So they're a really great source of support for international students as well. So if you haven't checked out the Study Melbourne website, I highly encourage you to do that today. Thanks, Helen. Okay, so just a few other tips as well, and everyone's situation is a little bit different. So some people are looking for work, others might be in need of housing support or other types of support. So I just want to give a kind of range of services here so that hopefully everyone can go away today with at least one type of support that will help their situation. So one is if you have been working in Australia for a year, then you can request to access your superannuation through the Australian Tax Office. So that is one option that's available, including to international students who have been working here for a year. The National Debt Helpline, so you can contact them for advice around financial management as well, and I'm sure that they would have knowledge about financial support services that are in the community that you can access as international students. And the Department of Social Services Grants and Service Directory there is maybe a good place to go to have a look through what types of organisations and services are available to students. And depending on where you're living in comparison to the campus, but Whittlesea Community Connections and Darebin City Council are two places that you also get support from, and that can be food relief, it can be advice, it can be information, it can be a community connection. So providing a range of supports. And I'm sure if you're not living in one of these council areas, that the chances that your council that you do live in would likely have similar kind of support services as well. So it's always a good idea to check in with your local council. Thanks, Helen. So just as some more, this is more of a charity-based food relief, and again, it's open to anyone in the community, whether you're an international student, domestic student or other. If you are requiring some financial assistance, great charities like Salvation Army, St Vincent de Paul, Empower Australia Food Relief, Bendigo Food Share for those that might be living in the Bendigo area. So they are great services, and not only food relief, but they can also provide other kinds of support, whether again it's connections, financial support, advice. So yeah, really great charities there to reach out to as well. Thank you, Helen. So nearing the end, but hopefully you're getting a bit of a sense that there is quite a lot of support out there. Another one is around rental relief and advice. And so Tenants Victoria and Housing Vic COVID-19 Relief Grant. So the relief grant, international students are eligible to apply for this relief grant if you have a lease agreement and you have paid a bond. So if you have a formal rental agreement and you're facing difficulty with paying your rent, you may be eligible for rent relief grant. And as an international student, you are eligible as long as you have a lease and have paid a bond at that property. Thank you, Helen. Okay, and just a reminder, because I'm talking a lot about financial and material support, which is obviously very much needed, but we're also very aware that the impact that COVID-19 is having on all of us. And so it's really important that you are looking after your well-being and whatever that means for you. But La Trobe University still has a wonderful student wellbeing team who are there to support you. You can have a video or telephone appointment with them. They have a 24-hour number that you can call or text if you are needing someone to chat to any time of day. And so I'd encourage you to make sure that you reach out to this service as well, to La Trobe Student Wellbeing Team. Really wonderful and professional team, all confidential and free, and that's available obviously for any La Trobe student. Thanks, Helen. I think this might be my last slide. So in addition to the wonderful wellbeing team at La Trobe, there's also community support for your health and wellbeing, including Lifeline, Beyond Blue, let's try and say that again, and Headspace. So you can also access those free and external services too. And I think that's everything from me. So I'm happy if there are questions from panelists, from students. Anna might have some points that she wanted to raise. Or
yeah, I'll just jump in here too, Beck. Thank you. So Anna from International Student Services team, and as Beck mentioned, our team is available for you to call, and we'll be getting the contact details and the slides for how to contact us on the phone or via Ask La Trobe online by logging Ask a Question. So as Beck mentioned, everybody's situation is a little bit different. There are quite a variety of supports out there. Many of them depend on what kind of support, if it's food relief or rental relief or employment, and everybody's situation is different. So please do contact us, and we can maybe let us know what area you live in as well. That's really helpful. As Beck mentioned, local councils do have a lot of support services available. We've got good information on the ones close to Bundoora. We've also got a lot in Bendigo as well. But sometimes students you'll be living in different areas off campus. Just also to note that I think the COVID bursary provided by the university, as Robyn and Beck mentioned, still processing applications. I believe they're up to 5,000 applications now. So bear in mind, I know that many students are waiting on responses, and they're taking a while to process. Not everybody, unfortunately, who has applied will get one. So please look at other means of support as well. As Beck mentioned, applying through registering interest through Study Melbourne is a good first step, because there may well become some other supports available through Study Melbourne. I also note that in addition to the financial payments, they're flagging some rental support, rental assistance. So that might be something that you can apply to them for separate or in addition to the $1,000 payments. So that's the study, and I do. I don't know, Beck, whether in relation to fees, we have had a lot of inquiries from international students who are finding it difficult to pay fees, many of whose the home countries are in lockdown. The banks are in lockdown, so they have been unable to access money for both living or for fees. So that is providing a massive difficulty for many of you at the moment. And we really do understand and empathise, and doing everything that we can to extend and support you whilst you're waiting for those banks to come back online. So please just keep us informed about the dates. At this point, you'll be able to, the census date was extended, and then you also, students will also be given 20 working days from census date in which to make payments on their fees. So that takes us up to about the 28th of May. So if maybe we're hoping that the banks will reopen before that time. So maybe just monitor and keep us informed of the situation as that changes. And the student services fee, the refund of the SSAF, which is something else that the university is doing. So all students, domestic and international, can apply for a refund of that. Not a massive amount of money in it, but it is very helpful for you, and it's available for everybody. There's no necessarily eligibility criteria, so long as you have paid those fees, the SSAF fee, then you can apply to have that reimbursed. So that's something else that is available. And yes, very definitely, please do. This is a really stressful time for you all, and it's very difficult to think of creatively and get out of this difficult circumstance when you are in a state of stress. So I do encourage people to think about accessing some of our wellbeing supports, because that can actually help you to think creatively and problem solve whilst you're in this situation, and access some of the great activities that are provided that can ease this period of isolation and feeling of aloneness that many of us are experiencing, and that can also help you to think creatively and constructively about how to address your logistical and financial issues in the interim whilst we're waiting for this movement and a resume to normal activities, hopefully. That's probably all from me at the moment, but happy to take questions. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Beck and Anna. So I think we're going to move on to questions now. I've got some here in the Q&A box. So we have a question from Margaret Kirby. She says, what about casual jobs where you're being employed as a sole trader as well as being a scholarship student?
Yeah, I saw that, Margaret. Thank you. I presume you're thinking about job seeker. So you need to have been employed with that same employer for 12 months as a casual. So you just need to know who you've been employed with for how long, and I'd encourage you to go for it. You can if you're talking about job keeper, talk to your employer. They will know if they've been eligible for it or not, and then they'll be able to make that $1,500 payment to you, which will be supportive of you. But also remember, if you get one, you can't get the other. So if you can't work it out, just email me and we'll talk about it together.
Thank you, Robyn. We have another question from a student asking, if you get knocked back for one, can you apply for the other? I am assuming that's based for scholarships, but I'm not too sure. It could be job seeker and job keeper. So
I think that student's asking about the COVID-19 bursary. So if there's a technology one and a crisis one, so if they've got knocked back from one, they're pretty unlikely to get the other one. The rule is you can only get one or the other, and you can only apply once. So that should answer the question.
I might just add to that, if that's okay, Robyn. So at the moment, I know that students are still waiting for outcomes. No one has been deemed ineligible or been told that their application to date has been unsuccessful. But it is a reality that there are more applicants than there are bursaries to be awarded. So at some point that will be the case, unfortunately. If you have applied though and your circumstances have worsened, I would encourage you to reapply. If it hasn't significantly worsened or changed, don't do a second application. It won't increase your chances. Your application's still open. But if your circumstances have changed and you want to add something significant to that, they can't amend your application, but you can resubmit an application. So I would encourage students to do that if there's a difference between the first application and a second application.
Yeah.
Can I just add to that too? Whilst I know that a lot of students are waiting and trying to complete studies, whilst they're waiting on the outcomes of technology bursaries particularly, and have limited access to hardware and also internet. The campuses do have study labs still open. Now that's something that was announced, I think, by our VC on the 25th of March, and they are still in operation at Albury, Wodonga, Bendigo, Bundoora, Mildura and Shepparton. There are still study labs open during the week within 9 to 5, and social distancing measures are applying, so students can come to campus, and if you're not sure of the locations for those, you could look for the VC's message. I might pop it in chat anyway, the study locations for students in the different campuses. I'll send that in chat.
Yeah, I think that actually answers our next question, which was, what if you have access to technology but it doesn't work very well or very fast? So I think we've answered that one, unless anybody wants to add anything else onto that.
Annabelle, there is an equipment bursary too for certain students. So if they look on the LTU website and search for the equipment bursary, there's a $700 funding for people whose laptop has died on them. So that can be, you need to check the eligibility criteria. It's quite tight, but that's always worth keeping your eye out for. And of course, there's also the student grant that if you're unsuccessful with the coronavirus funding, You could look at the student grant if you're in an abnormal, once-off, really unusual situation that you never anticipated. Student grants are very rarely given, but they are there, and also interest-free student loans. But you need to capability to repay it, and also it's not to be used for tuition fees. So you need to be clear on that one. I never want to advertise loans, especially the students, but have a really good look around there on the site about what other assistance is always available too.
Yeah, thank you, Robyn. And Anna has just posted in the chat the Vice-Chancellor's message to students about study locations that are open across all of our La Trobe campuses. So thank you for that. Our next question is, some students have applied for the bursary as early as March 30th and have not received correspondence. Are they likely to receive a successful outcome?
Yes, so I would say that the reality is as time does go on and you haven't received an outcome, that the chances of you being awarded a bursary are decreasing, certainly. So students are still being told if their application is successful, and then applicants are remaining in the pool. But if you had applied, let's say a month ago, and you hadn't heard anything yet, it may be that your application is, scored perhaps lower than others. So there might be others in the ranking above you. And I know that sounds a little bit harsh because we do know that everyone is in need. But because it is a limited bursary fund, there's a very rigorous and impartial kind of scoring process that does rank students for that reason. So as Anna mentioned, if you haven't heard yet, I would highly encourage to look at other sources of support and not be expectant or reliant on a positive outcome for the bursary. And for international students, certainly contact our team, International Student Services, and we can go through all the resources that we know with you to help you access anything, even while you're waiting. And, for some of you, you still will get positive outcomes, and that will be great. But for others, that won't be the reality. And so we really need to look at all other available options for you.
And I'm really happy to meet with students who fail to receive the bursary and look for other ways to help with their daily expenses. Things like the utility companies are offering concessions at the moment for people who can prove they've lost employment or been stood down. Also, rental agreements can be renegotiated. You need to have a bit of a criteria to address there, though. You have to have less than $5,000 savings and income less than $1,900 a week, but you can apply to Consumer Affairs Victoria for that, or through your landlord. So thinking of not only how much money we can get in at these times, but thinking about how we can reduce our costs, even just for a couple of months, to stop those memberships or whatever subscriptions we've got over time, because every utility company, bank, insurance company, superannuation fund all understand this is crazy times and that they are out there trying to help everybody.
Thank you, Robyn. So our next question is, does the university have any information from the Australian Tax Office, or the ATO, regarding postgraduate students being taxed on scholarship money if they decide to go part-time, i.e. will this condition continue with COVID-19?
I think we'll have to take that on notice, that question. I am not aware of the ATO guidelines around taxing scholarships, so we'd have to actually investigate that, and maybe contacting through the Graduate Research School or the scholarship, or in fact the ATO themselves. But yes, that's a good question and something we might need to investigate further.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and you need to find out the answer for you specifically, because we could give you an answer that's general and it could do you more harm than good. You need to go to the ATO site and look and see what you are, what you need to, you'll be obliged to pay your tax. And it's better to know now than later. So they're pretty good on the ATO site. You should be able to get onto that through your MyGov site if you've got one. And ask that direct question. And if you don't get a good answer, let me know, email me, and I'll see what else we can follow up to.
Thank you. We have another question. We have a lot of questions, which is really fantastic. With job seeker, if your income is within threshold, however, being partnered means that your income is now over the threshold, can we still be eligible, especially if your partner's income doesn't affect you? For example, they don't contribute to your bills.
Well, I wonder if the partner is receiving Centrelink also. So again, that's a hard one. I'd suggest they go to the Centrelink site and search Service Finder, put in their criteria of their exact situation, and it should give them a what if scenario of what benefits they should receive. But a lot of the conditions of job seeker have been relaxed, so that the usual waiting periods and the usual assets and income tests have been relaxed if you qualify because you were affected from COVID. So if you've lost your job because of that and your partner's income just knocks you over the limit, the usual limit, I would go for it anyway.
Awesome. Thank you. So next question relates to PhD students. So are PhD candidates eligible for job seeker? It seems some have been able to get it and others have been told they are not eligible.
We need to know what your status would be, whether you're a permanent resident or whether you're an international student. Do we know, Annabelle, from the question whether they're...
The student is anonymous, but I mean, if they're more than happy to rewrite it in the questions and their name, and they could maybe explain their situation a bit more, or if they feel comfortable just going to Robyn personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, feel free to reach out to Robyn. It seems that there are a lot of sticky situations where it's very individually based. So yeah.
I think it's really hard when you've got postgraduate study that may not be eligible for Centrelink payments, and then you get a scholarship, and you know, it's an unusual situation. Sorry, Anna.
No, I was just going to say exactly the same, that it's probably, you know, sometimes people say, oh, this person got this and I haven't, but it might be that they have very different, you know, criteria, eligibility or so on. So I think it's probably wise to investigate the rules and the eligibility as they apply to your own individual circumstance. I mean, certainly, you know, taking the situation and circumstances of other people and using them as ideas, possible avenues, but I'm not necessarily assuming that that you're comparing like for like, because you know there might be something in their you know visa, studies, scholarship, entitlements, different bursaries that mean that there is differing eligibility for certain areas of support. So unfortunately it's something that it's not really a one size fits all with some of these things, and you'll have to seek individual advice from ourselves, from Robyn, from the relevant authorities, or as to how that.
Yeah. I'm just reading a question that we've got, but also a comment which kind of ties in with this question. So the comment comes from Sarah Sloan, and she said, I didn't write the question, but I'm curious as well. Could you give a general idea on eligibility for job seeker, etc., for PhD students on scholarships? And the question is, are graduate researchers who are supported by scholarships but have lost their casual or PT work eligible for COVID-19 Centrelink supplements?
Are they eligible for job seeker COVID-19? Is that the question?
COVID-19.
Job seeker. So that's through the government criteria. Again, I think that would be determined by the treasurer, who's the eligibility for job seeker has, is a bit of an unknown. So I mean, advice through financial counsellors, and I know that there are varying bodies that of employer unions, perhaps, that or employers. Of course, when PhD students, their employer is La Trobe University, it's a good question. We might need to take that on notice.
Yep.
Our next question is, can any part of the bursary be used to pay tuition fees? I'm assuming the bursary is the La Trobe University bursary.
Yeah, so the crisis bursary of $3,000, so that's the part of the La Trobe financial package. When you are awarded, if you are awarded that bursary, then you can choose to spend that money as you need. So there's no requirement that it only goes on living expenses or it only goes on fees. So for the crisis bursary, it's spending that bursary at whatever needs that recipient has.
Thank you. Our next question is, if we need to discuss a payment plan for fees, who should we contact? International Student Services, fees, or Ask Services?
Anna and I are looking at each other, who's going to go? So for international students, our team, International Student Services, obviously in collaboration with the fees team, administer the fee payment plan applications. What I can say is for semester one, the fee payment plan application process is closed, but it would still be worthwhile for students to contact our team to let us know of their circumstances. So we do monitor fees, and we do know there are some students who have outstanding fees, and we would love to know what their circumstances are so that we can continue to advise them on extensions to that payment, or what kind of time frame they're looking at, because the university has been more lenient than ever with payments, and will continue to be so. And in that conversation, if there's any other suggestions we can make for a financial or situation, that we can do that as well. So, so the simple answer is payment plan applications are closed, but support is still available. So certainly contact us at International Student Services for those questions. And I think for domestic students, it would be having a chat to the great Ask La Trobe team.
Yeah. So the next one's sorry, Robyn, were you going to say something? Sorry, all good. So the next one's a bit of a long one. It comes from a student in So they say, first, I'd like to thank the Australian government and Centrelink and La Trobe for keeping us all safe during the pandemic. I'm proud to be an Australian. However, students studying research-based degrees are not eligible for Austudy. If a student is not in any other payment, they are not getting COVID supplement. Is it possible to change in the future, as graduate researchers are not able to invest time off from work at this stage to undertake a research unless they receive a scholarship? Thank you.
So has that student lost their employment because of COVID? Is that what we understand? They're having a scholarship and they've lost their part-time work. Is that the situation?
It's looking like it. Maybe Indu, if you'd like to respond in the chat section, because I don't want to assume your situation.
Because if they've lost their job, and many students have. They were doing Uber Eats or something like that and have been stood down. And as long as they've got residency requirements, they can apply for the job seeker with the COVID conditions. Just have the proof that you were stood down at that time from your employer, and that's worth applying for, even if you've never applied for Centrelink before. But I don't know if you've got the residency requirement. All those details are on the links that will be on the document attached to this webinar, that will have all the details of exactly where to go to find those things out for yourself.
Thank you, Robyn. Oh, I think Anna's maybe just jumped off. I think her computer may have crashed. But our next question is, I did get a rent relief, a percentage, as I live on campus, but after last month's payment, I'm not left with enough money for the next month's rent. If I apply again, are there chances that I might get more help?
I'm happy to make a comment on this one. So the lovely team at Accommodation Services, so if you're living on campus, they're still open and operating. And in my conversations with them about particular student situations, they have been really flexible. And so my advice would be contact Accommodation Services, let them know of your situation. They can offer payment plans. They may be able to offer discounts, but have that discussion with them, and they are certainly being as flexible and supportive as they can as well. So it's worth asking the question, certainly.
Mm.
Okay, so I've just had a few comments come through in the Q&A box. So I don't know which questions they are referring to. So they're just kind of comments. So I'll move on from those ones. So the next one is, I have a similar question. I'm a permanent resident on PhD scholarship. I may need to take a leave of absence. What would my options be for income support when scholarships stop? Question like job seeker, would I be expected to look for permanent positions even though my PhD is only on hold? What would the waiting time be?
Depends who the employer is and whether they'd still be actually doing their PhD or whether they're stopping doing their PhD. I'm not quite sure whether they're still thinking of continuing studying. So if they're looking for a job and they can satisfy the job seeker criteria, they should try that. Or you could also do the youth allowance as a job seeker. So there's a couple of different categories they could apply for there. But the trouble is their scholarship might be the income that is too high to make them eligible. So if they go to the service finder on the Centrelink website and put in their details of how much they're earning from their scholarship, then they can test whether they'll get job seeker. I just don't know how much the scholarship is.
So the next question is, I think the issue is that with Australian citizen PhDs, some have been told that they are not students and others have been told they do classify as students. It's more of a statement, not a question. So I don't know if the panelists want to respond to that one. But the next one is there any fast track way for new students to get has now income up to now? I think they mean, is there a fast track way for new students to get an income right now? They also mentioned it's their first semester.
So I think that's about maybe finding work. So unsure if it's for international students, but for international students, I would say that there are government registries. I think one of them is Work for Victoria that students can register for, and it is like a job search function, so that there's availabilities that are posted on there, and that might help students in registering for employment and who are looking for employment. But Robyn might have some other suggestions around that as well.
No, I'm right.
The other one I'll mention, sorry, is also La Trobe Careers Hub. So they will still be posting jobs, helping students search for work. They are really, have their finger on the pulse in terms of what jobs are available out there, especially in, in the current climate. So if you haven't already linked in with the Careers Hub at La Trobe, that's another great support in finding employment.
Yep.
So the next one is for a student on a domestic PhD scholarship who is also employed through La Trobe, but has recently had their casual hours decreased. Are they able to apply for anything as La Trobe has been their employer for 2 years?
Well, if citizens are not on doing a PhD aren't eligible for Austudy or youth allowance, they probably won't be able to do that. And I think with JobKeeper, the university's exempt from that as an employer, I believe. So I don't know what help there is for you there. Can you contact me at the Student Union? I just need to know what the situation is exactly, so I don't want to guess at the situation. I don't know if anyone else can add to that, what other support there'd be for that person.
Yeah. I'm just scrolling through the chat, and Rayleigh Pasalis has commented she's from the GRS, and GRS have not been, she says that the GRS have not been notified of any general changes, and we are still obliged to tax part-time scholarships, but as mentioned, this may differ for individual circumstances and what that means for you. So as mentioned, best to get in touch with the ATO with your own circumstances. Vignesh asked, will we be having face-to-face classes in semester 2? And Anna's just commented back, we don't know when face-to-face classes will resume. This will depend upon the health and government advice.
Just to add to that, I mean, I think that we're assuming, and the university is preparing for at least a commencement of classes. I mean, we're trying to prepare for both options, really. We're very much committed to ensuring that the continuation of our services so that we can continue to function as a university, which means ensuring that all of our staff, students and communities are protected. So we don't want to go back too early and then have to go back online and so on. So I think the university is making sure that they do follow, of course, the government regulations and advice around a resuming of services with a mind to ensuring that we can continue to safeguard all of our students and staff, and whilst we continue to work offline, if you like, or remotely, and at the same time introduce face-to-face classes and services as we're allowed to, basically, as the government authorities advise us. So I think you should be prepared at this point to at least commence the semester 2 online, and then resuming face-to-face classes when that advice comes through. But it's a golden question we all want to know.
Thanks, Anna. We had some questions come in from students that couldn't make it today. So this part of the recording is, for everybody, but it's specific to those students that couldn't make it. So a student has asked, how do I organise an appointment with the LTSU financial counsellor, and is it free? Robyn, this is for you.
It's definitely free, and you can join me on Zoom or by the phone. And you just need to email me from the website or call reception on 9479 2314. And if you look at the link with the student update that'll go with this webinar, that will have that email nice and clear for you. Look forward to meeting you.
Thanks, Robyn. Another question is, where do students look to for the most up-to-date information on financial support? I guess that could be government support or university support.
Yeah, So in terms of domestic students, I'll cover. So again, the student update that I'm linking onto the front of the Student Union website, if you keep your eye on that, I'm keeping that up to date. So that's got all the benefits I know of that have all the financial counsellors in Victoria know of that you can benefit from. So keep your eye on that and really look at the links properly, because there's lots there that you can benefit from if you have lost your job or have been stood down because of the virus. And for international?
I'll just say that things are changing. It's very difficult to keep abreast of all the changes. Sometimes something will be available by one service, and if we put that up somewhere, it might be gone the next. So it's very hard. We're trying very hard to keep abreast of it. Sometimes just contacting us is probably the best way, because there are the FAQs on the university website, and obviously we're all trying to keep abreast and make any update changes as they come through. But it's hard to keep that up to date with the most day-to-day relevant information. So that would be a great first option. But then, contacting individual organisations and individual services as well would be to get a bit slightly more up-to-date information.
Thanks, Anna. And we'll just go to our last question, which is, can students receive both JobKeeper and Job Seeker payments on top of their regular youth allowance or rent assist?
No, you'll either get one or the other. So if you were getting Job Seeker and then your employer was able to get JobKeeper too, you can't get both. So you will have to let Centrelink know that your employer is putting you on JobKeeper, and otherwise they'll be paying you double benefits, and you'll have a debt with them that you'll have to repay.
Yeah, thank you, Robyn. So we've had a few questions that couldn't be answered. There are a lot of questions, which is amazing, but we will be in touch and we'll be answering those questions, and those answers will be available to everybody. And also, if you have any other just general questions that you want answered, there's always the university FAQ page, which Anna has just linked in there, and they update it daily because obviously information is always changing, and it's helped me a lot. It's helped me with students who've asked me questions. So I would really encourage everybody to go to that page if they're just trying to look for some answers. So if there have been some questions that haven't been addressed today, you can always arrange an appointment with Robyn, get some information from her, and booking an appointment can be found on our website. And I believe Helen has linked it in the chat as well. I'd like to thank our guests today for taking the time to share and offer guidance to students. Beck, Anna and Robyn, thank you so much. And for international students, there's a weekly online international student lounge session, and that's happening tomorrow, and that's focusing on financial assistance, which is run by International Student Services. We have a student experience survey as well that Helen is going to post in the chat box below, and we would really, really, really appreciate all students taking the time to complete the survey, which just aims to assess student transition to online learning and see what kind of gaps we can fill and what we're really loving as well. So thank you so much everybody for coming, and please enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe. Bye guys, thank you so much.
Thanks everyone.